All right, we're going live,
here.
people. I know, we're going live.
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Right, we're
Yeah.
going live. That's fine.
Hey, people, we're live. One second, let me just do it. Good evening, everyone. Firstly, our sincerest apologies for having delayed this by an hour and a half.
My fault.
It was his fault, but unforeseen circumstances.
Guys,
So
I was traveling from Hull. I was traveling back from Hull, okay?
Okay,
that's what it was. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apologies, everyone.
Okay, so the man that's kept you waiting, he should introduce himself properly. Who are you and what are you doing on this webinar?
My name is Joshua Alamu and I'm Sheena's sidekick.
No, that is more like I'm his sidekick.
So basically what I do, guys, I'm the founder of Ultimate Artists. I have the lovely Sheena Ladwa there, who's also a director, and Eva Brandt is also a director. And I'm also a vocal coach full-time and work with a myriad of signed artists and non-signed artists. So today, this webinar is entitled Hardware Useful for Your Vocal Care. So I want to just highlight a couple of little bits of hardware that I think is useful for keeping your voice healthy, efficient, relaxed, tension-free, and happy voices, cool. Happy people.
So Josh, this week we've got quite a few people registered and probably on the call now that weren't there last week. So could you just kind of recap on, you know, some of the vocal issues and challenges that singers face, and yeah, just some more of the common things to kind of be aware of?
Yeah, well, the first webinar we did was an interesting one about anxiety and how to handle that. Just one or two tips that we shared on how to handle that. I did go quite in depth into my story, how I handled anxiety as a singer and also as a coach as well. I think anxiety is something that we all have a little bit of that energy anyway. But when it gets to the point that it's uncontrollable, what do you do about that? Because the muscles actually respond in a certain way by completely, reacting to that subconscious feed. And it's trying to find the strategies to actually deal with that situation. So that was the first one, and I thought it was, it's an important one that I think we have to keep following up on anyway. Like it's something that can't just be addressed at once. It needs to constantly be talked about. And I love the fact that we can open a discussion and keep talking about it and find ways that we can help each other. I think other people have other experiences that have helped them. It'd be great for you to share those with us. Then the second one was about who you're going to call when you've got a vocal issue or vocal problem, highlighting those in the medical field who can help us. People like ENTs, ear, nose, throat doctors. They're able to look inside the voice and check as to how it's really functioning and whether it's healthy or what condition it's in. And then speech language therapists, what they do in order to help heal you or put you in a situation where habitually you are paying attention to the things that help your voice get better. People like allergists and the role they play, your vocal coach and the role they play and so forth. So we looked at that. And obviously today is just kind of looking at those little things that you can be doing yourself in order to keep your voice healthy and efficient. Because when you have a busy schedule, when you've got a cold, when you are tired, all those different things, there are little tools out there, bits of hardware that you can use for your vocal care that are basically there to help us through. So that's what I want to break down today.
So before we get into the details of that, guys, for those of you that are watching, you'll see a chat box on should be your right-hand side of the screen. Feel free to drop questions in there and we'll try our best to answer them before this webinar is over. Just one thing that we need to mention, obviously, you guys know that you can win JP Cooper tickets. We will announce the winners directly after this webinar. And for the London show, it's in 2 days, so please be available in 2 days. And we'll let you know who's won those tickets. But Josh, coming back to this webinar, before we really get into the kind of details of what you can use and what you can do, What kind of factors can contribute to singers feeling like their voice really isn't performing at its optimum?
You know, this is such a huge question, and I love discussing this topic with specialists in this area because there's a whole bunch of variables to consider. Mentally, sometimes we are in a position where mentally we are not happy with our voices or with the sound coming out of our mouths and so forth. We get very anxious about that. So sometimes it's just a psychological thing that could be affecting us. Sometimes it could be especially for ladies, you know, when you're on time of the month, you know, these hormonal changes can definitely affect your voice. I know of some people who just before they come on, they can't really do much with their voices. Some people they're fine, and it's when they're on. Some people it's after. So it's just about you understanding your body and knowing your body well enough to be able to detect those changes. And if you're a professional voice user, aka singers, you know, teachers, public speakers, that sort of thing, you'll probably a little bit more in tune with when your voice feels a little off that day, as opposed to somebody that's not really using their voice in that professional way. So it's also about just understanding your body and knowing how it feels. And I feel like singers, speakers, whoever you are using your voice professionally, it's good to spend time with your voice on a daily basis, training it, warming it up, those kind of things, because it's then that having that kind of relationship with your voice gets you further acquainted with it. It is like a relationship. The more you get to know your voice, the more you get to understand it and spend time with it, the more you'll know what it likes and what it doesn't like, and what affects it and what doesn't affect it. Certain foods can affect some people. Certain foods don't affect people. Tiredness affects people. I know that if I'm really tired, my voice doesn't want to behave as well as it can, and sometimes that's unavoidable, and sometimes that can be avoided by just resting, taking a day off, taking some time out, and just sleeping, you know, drinking water, hydrating your body, working out, doing exercise. Don't come in, please. Those kind of things are really, really important, my kids. Those things are really important in terms of just making sure that we can maintain a healthy voice. But there's so many variables that can contribute to a voice feeling slightly off or feeling like it's not really functioning very well at all. So many, and it's just important to know who you can go to, the people you can call, and the resources, like for instance Ultima Artists, great resource for finding out information. You've got places like the British Voice Association for those in Britain. I'm not sure what other countries, I'm sure you might have your various associations for voice. Seek those people out and those entities out. A really great podcast by the name of The Naked Vocalist podcast is a really great one for information, and those guys are awesome when it comes to just being able to break down that information in bite-sized chunks and in ways that people can understand. So there are definitely ways to get answers to some of these really important things that singers and voice users have.
So we talked about kind of the vocal hardware part, and guys, for all of those names that Josh just reeled off, we'll put it in the chat box so you can go and check them out. We'll also go into a bit more detail about what Ultimate Artist is and how you guys can get involved. But Josh, the whole point of this webinar is the vocal hardware part. And you did a lovely video where you talked about nebulizers and vibrators and all sorts. So do you want to go into more detail about what all of that can do?
This. So let me pull up the first one. Some of you may have seen this little baby here. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, so this is a basic steamer. What happens is you put some hot water. Imagine if this was hot water. Put that in there. You stick the mouthpiece on, and you just simply start to breathe into it. Now, I want to say a couple of things about steaming. It's an awesome way to directly hydrate your vocal cords, because as a lot of you may know, when you eat and drink, it doesn't actually go anywhere near your vocal cords. It actually passes over it via the lid that is the epiglottis, and then everything goes into your esophagus and down into your stomach. So basically, nothing ever touches your vocal cord. So even if you're using a spray, it doesn't work. It's not going anywhere near. But the steam, which is practically air with water particles, that's obviously going directly into your vocal cord, so it hydrates it directly. Now, the thing is, I wouldn't recommend using the steamer before you sing. I would recommend using the steamer in the morning when you wake up, for instance, and you're not doing any singing, or just before you go to bed when all your vocal activities are done. I would recommend using it then. Or if you're sick and you're just trying to get well and you're practically in bed, I would definitely use it then. The reason being, because of the heat, if you put heat on your body, this is why heat patches work. You put heat on your body, it causes the blood to rush to that particular site on the body. And once that happens, you start having that body literally, it starts to swell up with the fact that the blood and the antibodies are rushing to that particular site to protect it. Now, if you are steaming, you have a situation where that's actually happening in this area of your body. And also you get a situation where the blood vessels are actually getting a little bit more dilated and getting bigger. So the danger that you could face is if you have blood vessels that are slightly fatter than they usually are, and they're coming together in the vocal cords, that could potentially burst. You could have one of those blood vessels coming to the surface, and that could burst. And it wouldn't be because you necessarily did anything wrong technically, but you had a situation where the vocal cords were just at that point where they were just so swollen because of the heat that's involved in the steaming. So that's why I wouldn't recommend steaming just before you sing. I would recommend using it because it is great hydration for the cords, but I would use it at the end of a task, a singing task or a speaking task, in the morning before you've done anything and you've got like a good few hours before you do anything. Or if you're at home sick and just like spluttering everywhere and you're maybe not drinking as much, something like that, that's a great place to use the steamer. So that's the steamer. Really love that.
One thing, how long should you steam for? Like what's acceptable?
Well, I like steaming. I like steaming until it's practically no steam left.
Okay.
And that will take about 15 minutes.
Okay.
The steam doesn't last very long on the cords. It's probably like 20 minutes that it will actually sit on the cords, and then you might need to sort of repeat that process again. But you could do that for 5 minutes and it would be fine as well. I don't think it's just about getting hydration to the cords, and if you can do that for 5 minutes and then call it a day, that's fine. I like to do that like at the end of a day when I'm done with everything and I'm not going to use my voice any longer. I'll sit there until it's practically cold again, and then go to bed.
Okay, cool. That's the steamer, guys.
All right, that's the steamer. Now the next one is this little baby here. Can see that?
Yeah.
So that's water. That is basically water that is turning into mist. Okay, so this is what we call a mesh nebulizer. Now this little baby you can use every time, throughout the day, before you sing, after you sing, before bed, after bed, during sleeping, in your dreams, in the morning when you wake up. You can use it all day long. This is particularly good for flights, long haul flights. The humidity on planes is about 4% generally, and your voice thrives on a lot more moisture than that. So by the time you are up there for that long, your body is your cords as well, and some of us like me will sleep like that with my mouth agape. So that's also drying out your vocal cords. This will practically save it, and I've had a lot of clients that have sworn by this, that by the time they get to LA, their voices actually feel really, really good and they don't feel dry. So this is a really good device. I would highly recommend you getting one. You can get them from Argos now, about 80 something pounds. And you can stick it in your bag, ladies. You get your Versace bag, you can just drop it in there. It's done. all good. It's really, really good. So yeah, definitely invest in one if you're serious about hygiene. And of course, if you're not drinking enough water, again, it's not like necessarily the cure, the answer, but it will help because again, it directly hydrates the void. The mist goes directly. You can see it's practically like a vapor thing. But it's water. So that goes directly to the cords and totally lubricates the vocal cords. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend that as a piece of hardware that is certainly really good for your vocal care. It goes without saying, drink water. Water takes about between 48 and 72 hours to actually sort of go through the entire body, therefore get to the cords. So make sure you're drinking water. What else have I got? Oh, I got one of these. It's a straw. Got one of these. This straw thing is heavily steeped in vocal science. I would Google straw therapy or straw phonation. This exercise, I basically cannot live without going. Can't live without it. Can't live without this. This is my go-to exercise for every second of the day. Get a straw, get some water, get a thin straw that you can get these from Amazon, and give it a shot. Go to the Naked Vocalist. They got articles all over that shop about how effective this is and the beautiful acoustic phenomena called inertance and how that affects the voice and keeps the voice efficient. So definitely use your straws. What I got? I have some Vocal Zone. Goes without saying, Vocal Zone is the one. What else have I? Okay, there's this little baby here. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is a vibrator. It is a real vibrator. And basically you can, don't know if you can hear that.
Is it
Yeah.
catchy?
This is vibrating right now.
Oh yeah, we can hear it.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Right. So this is cool because, you know, last time we spoke about manual therapy or laryngeal physiotherapy, as I call it, and how you can go to a specialist and they can basically start to, using this technique of manual therapy, actually pull out the tension from the muscles. Well, you can do a little bit of that on your own by using this vibrator. It was put together by the guys who are behind the Vibrant Voice technique. And it just basically helps you to sort of self-manipulate muscles with vibration. The vibration can help to release the tension in the muscles, in the voice, around your neck, and also help to increase and boost resonance. So this is a pretty cool one. If you're one of those people that is constantly on the go with your voice, you're singing stuff that is pretty high, pretty stressful stuff on the voice, energy, for instance. So someone like, rock singers, certainly R&B singers, gospel singers that are doing a lot of raspy sounds and stuff like that. The toll that it can take on the muscles is that ultimately the muscles are just going to start getting a lot more tense the more you sort of continue this, regardless of how good your technique is as well. Can have the best technique, but there's definitely going to be residue of that tension that will just build up in the throat, and you can just use this just to literally release that. It's almost like shaving. You kind of use it that way. You do it very slowly just to cause those muscles, the vibration to get into the muscles, and you press according to the level of pressure that you can handle. You give it a good press, and you can feel that for yourself. You can feel like if you're doing it too hard, you can back off of it. If you need a bit more pressure, you can self-press. So this is a really cool tool to use to help with the tension of your voice. And you know what? Here's the interesting, well, in my experience, I wouldn't say it's a fact as such, but in my experience, I find like 90% of the issues that most of us teachers will face, 90% of it is due to tension of some sort. Tension in the throat, tension in the voice, in the stomach, in the shoulders, somewhere, some form of tension. which then can lead to other things as well, other issues. And then the other 10% can be the odd thing that we could never really sort of ascertain unless there was a proper check or diagnosis done. So I would suggest that this is a really, really important one. The brand is called Lelo. I don't know if you can see that. Probably can't see it.
Will you type it in the chat box,
but if you,
please?
yeah, I certainly can do. And it is pretty small. So if you're going on Amazon and you get anything bigger than that, you got the wrong one. Okay? So you gotta be careful when you're making your purchases, okay, that you get the right one, okay? If you get something and it's like that big,
Josh,
you
we've
didn't want
got
to.
young people on this webinar.
You did not want to do anything about your voice. Put it that way. All right. So no, seriously speaking, just make sure you get the right one. Yeah, and they come in different colors. They come in really lovely colors as well. So just be careful when you're making a purchase. If you're not sure, please ask one of us at Ultimate Artist or anywhere of those resources I've mentioned, and we can advise you.
I'm blushing a little bit.
What else do I have? I think that was it, really. It was just those I wanted to kind of. There's a load of other things as well, but maybe what we could do is go into like a more in-depth workshop or something like that down the line. But it's certainly cool when you've got things like humidifiers that are pretty cool just to put moisture into the air again. But I would actually choose this mesh nebulizer over humidifiers, or I would for this because again it just goes directly into your voice. So yeah, that's what I've got for you.
Cool. So one question I have, so guys, we've got 10 minutes left. Send your questions through in that chat box. We're going to wrap up with one more question for Josh, a little bit about what Ultimate Artist is, and then we'll have to call it a night, unfortunately. These always go so quickly. But Josh, when it comes to things like regimes and just looking after your voice in general, it's surprising how many singers, don't warm up before a show, don't cool down after a show. And some of these singers are kind of singing for 4 or 5 nights in a row. Like, what's your advice to those singers out there that maybe don't have much regard for those regimes?
I feel like a lot of the time singers who don't have any regard for these routines and regimes, as you call it, eventually they'll find out the hard way. And trust me, it happens all the time. Singers who are pretty adept, who have pretty good DNA, perhaps sing however they want, whatever they want. Some of them maybe smoke sometimes, just kind of reckless with the drinking. They get far, and because nothing happens to them, they carry on with this lifestyle. But one day, you get the call from that person, and that person goes, "Help! I remember when you told me this, and now I can feel that." And the reason why they get to that point is because whatever they're doing at that time, the demands on them have changed. So they've actually gotten to a point where the demands on their voice have completely changed, gone up to the next level. They've worked hard, and now more is expected of them, their time, their voices, their energy. And they're now in situations where the voice is being used in such a new level, and such a high level now, that what they used to do is no longer cutting it. And then they make that call because now they can start to feel that something is wrong. So for me, I'm kind of tired of trying to convince anybody. For me, if you're willing to listen, listen. If you're not willing to listen, it's cool. I don't have those issues because I look after my voice, right? So I just wait for those people to get to that point. It could be a year down the line. It could be 4 years down the line. If they're good enough, they'll get to the point where the demands on their voice are a lot more heavy, and they get into situations where they can't cope because they realize that they're human beings and not machines.
Yeah.
And that's where we're able to break it down. So for those that are able to listen, consistency is key. The consistency in making sure, like today, this morning, you know, with all driving up and down England I've been doing, I made sure I warmed up today. I warmed up with my client. I drank a lot of water today. I used my nebulizer today. I used my straw a heck of a lot today, and it just happened. It just really helped. So I would suggest just making sure that you speak to a good vocal professional. You can find some of these at Ultimate Artists. Like I said, some of the other resources that are out there, and they can advise you on so many different things that are helpful for you, especially when the demand is high.
You've mentioned Ultimate Artist a couple of times now. Shall we talk about that? What is it? What are we doing with it? Obviously, I'm involved in that, but I'd like you to kind of go into a bit more detail.
Yeah, Ultimate Artist is a 10-day program. Also, it's a artist development program. So what we cover are different things in the realm of music production, singing, technique and style, songwriting, performance, and it's basically from 7 o'clock in the morning, where we've done the warm-ups, till 10 o'clock at night. There's always a musical activity, a musical challenge. The course is designed to really prepare you from a mental position, from an inner position, dealing with those inner things, those inner turmoils, like anxiety, like you know, having an expectation of something, or having your expectations disappointed, and how you respond and deal with that. So we're not just kind of looking at the skills, we're looking at the desire. We're looking at the, you know, for me, if you are you have the desire to sing, you have the desire for music, that desire was put in there for a reason. And it's important to develop and foster love and a care for that desire, and, you know, and the mental side of that, as well as the outer, the physical, because trust me, the physical stuff and the outer stuff is driven by the inner stuff. So Ultimate Artist is really, it consummates all of that and puts it all together in a 10-day program that is fairly intense, but with professionals that we have in from the business, whose heart is to mentor people. You get great mentorship, and we're able to meet you at the point of your need. So that for me is a really special thing about Ultimate Artist, in that it doesn't matter if you're a real pro, and we've had real pros come in, or you're just beginning, you can get exactly what you need out of that 10 days, and you come out with the ability to be able to follow that onto the long term. It's not just something that you just drop the minute Ultimate Artist is done. Actually, there's a program that we have that helps follow artists on for the rest of their careers, really, if they want it. And we've put that in place to make sure that there's accountability and that there's a community that you can run to if you need help.
Just to add to that, guys, for those of you that don't know anything about UA Ultimate Artists other than what Josh has just said, there are mentors like him of his caliber across the different entities, and more. So apart from the core things like singing, performance, production, and what was the final one? Songwriting. The other things that we include are, you know, music business experts, music law experts. This year we've got YouTube coming in. The Unsigned Music Awards will be back with us as well. And it's just to give you as many resources as possible to, with our help, take your career to the next level. So if you haven't been to Ultimate Artist before and you're thinking about it, I've dropped the website address in the chat box. You guys can have a look. And yeah, feel free to email myself. I'll put my email address there as well. And Josh, we have a couple of questions.
I just saw the one about the book. Is there a book? So I wanted to just highlight this one. I think it's a really good book. It's called The Ultimate Guide to Singing. You can see that's what it looks like. It's part of my library. It's by T.C. Helicon, actually. And it's got so many different contributors in this incredible book, from producers, engineers, coaches, doctors, agents, managers, social media gurus. This kind of is a bite-sized, comprehensive guide to a whole bunch of stuff stuffed into one book, and it's a pretty good resource if you want to start with something. There's also the online resource called I Sing Magazine, which is an online resource just dedicated to singers, and it has a wealth of information in there: vocal care, vocal style, technique, just everything. It's online, so you can literally download it onto your phone or onto your computer if you're kind of more of a digital person. So those are two areas that I would certainly go into if you want some resources to look at.
Cool. We have another question. What pills do you recommend for times when we have a sore throat but that don't affect the singing?
Pills.
So
I'm wondering if they're referring to steroid pills and things like that, which I wouldn't recommend as a go-to, as the first line of defense. I wouldn't recommend. If you've got sore throats and things like that, ultimately your body is trying to fight something off. It could even be due to reflux as well. You can develop sore throats and laryngitis because of that too. Vocal Zone is a good lozenge if you are a busy singer and you're not sick. It's not your, vocal sickness or sickness at all. It's actually if you're busy singing and you're doing stuff and you're actually active and you just need that extra bit of support for your voice in terms of keeping it clear and free and open for when you're singing and not full of like thick catarrh or whatever that can actually hinder you. So Vocal Zone is great for if you're already healthy and you're doing stuff, you're looking after yourself, but you're just really busy and you need that extra bit of support. Vocal Zone is great for that. But for things like, if you're really sick and you've got sore throat, you know what? My whole thing is about making sure you stop, you rest, you get that checked out by a doctor first, get that out of the way, and then continue. I don't think there are any real logical. There's no point you taking the risk with your voice. That's my point. And I never advise a singer. It's just too risky. It's just too risky. I wouldn't do it.
Okay, we're going to take last couple of questions.
Someone just asked, where can you get this, please, for your voice? Amazon straws. This is a 9mm straw. Amazon. This is a 3mm straw. Amazon,
basically. Just go to Amazon.
Amazon. Yeah, because there are people from different countries here, so go to Amazon and you can pretty much get all of those things.
Okay.
Thank God for Amazon.
The other question about vocal technique is, are there any specific vocal exercises or hardware to trick yourself to sing from the diaphragm and unuse unnecessary muscles in the throat if singing in the throat has become a habit?
Yeah, there are. And to be honest, I would need to qualify what singing from the diaphragm actually meant to you. The diaphragm is a semi-involuntary muscle that works with or without your consent. The only way it stops is if you hold your breath, which is so not going to help anyone if they do that. So for me, getting a good understanding of how the diaphragm works and you should use it in a natural, effortless way is very important, because some people can over-activate that muscle and actually they're over-activating the stronger sort of stomach, abdominal muscles, and it's overpowering the voice. So therefore, what tends to happen is the body gets tired, and then the proper breath support is not happening as it should, and so the body starts to compensate and basically employ compensatory habits. One of those big compensatory habits is the throat muscles, and these really thick strapper muscles start to go, oh, you're tired, right? Okay, let us help you make sound. And so the minute they start to approach a lot more on the vocal cords, then you get a situation where you're really singing from the throat and you can actually hear the tension and stuff like that. So there are some ways to just work on proper breathing, and there are some tools that you can use. That I know Lynn Hilton, one of my mentors, uses a really kind of long elastic tool. I can't remember the name of it, but she puts that around a singer and helps them to kind of feel the breathing and the different mechanisms that they can be using that can support the laryngeal muscles. But I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to find the name of it and get that to you. Like I said, we could probably do like a really deeper, in-depth version of that, which is cool, which would be really cool. But you know, if you check out techniques like breathing coordination, MDH breathing coordination, they're really great on helping you to understand the breathing mechanism properly, so that you are not encroaching on the laryngeal muscles and relying on those, but the system is working well together and supporting each other. So yeah, that's my quick advice on that one.
Awesome. Guys, we have gone over time, so we are going to need to wrap this up. But thank you so much, Josh. Thank you guys for joining us. Pleasure. And
don't forget those JP Cooper tickets.
We'll announce it shortly. Yes. Be checking your emails. And we hope to see you either at UA or on another webinar in the future. But thank you, and we're going to sign off. Josh, any last words?
Yeah, just look after your voices. Look after your voices and use ultimateartists.co.uk as a resource. You know, if you need more in-depth information, definitely send us an email, www.ultimateartist.co.uk or info@ultimateartist.co.uk. Send us a message, and we'll do our best to give you more in-depth advice.
All right, guys, take care. Have a good evening.
Good evening, people. Take care.